Part 51. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 524. Chapter 500. There is no danger, it's a life guarantee resisting the desire to overwhelm the other party to rectify the law on the spot, Zhou Mikang answered with some difficulty. Following the other person's uncomfortable look, Chu Xia slipped back into bed and smiled proudly at the other person. Isn't it hard? Yes. Zhou Mikang smiled at her, violently opened the quilt, and stretched his claws towards the culprit who had just seduced him. Don't. Zhou Mikang interrupted her. You want surgery, I know. As he said this, the movements of his hands did not stop, moving down from the top of his chest little by little. Chu Xia was so frightened that she quickly begged for mercy. Wrong, I was really wrong just now. Zhou Mikang raised his eyebrows. Really? Chu Xia nodded repeatedly. I promise I won't tease you anymore. I really won't tease you anymore. Please forgive me. I'm sure I'll scare you. Zhou Mikang grabbed the quilt and covered her up. Are you awake? Then let me tell you something. Zhou Mikang sat up. I have been cooperating with Huang Sui's work during this period, and I may have to work with her for a period of time after the year. Huang Sui. Chu Xia sat up wrapped in quilt, staring at him with big eyes. Come, tell me carefully, why did you two go together? Is it because she didn't let you write to me and call me? You also told me about the two-nation model. I was the first to propose the establishment of the girls' medical team, so I was also responsible for the pre-war medical care. Huang Sui was the specific person in charge of pre-war medical care. Of course she had a role in the formulation of the regulations, but it was me who proposed not to write or make phone calls, not her. Before everything is confirmed, I don't want anyone from the Huang family to get involved. Regardless of whether it's a villain or not, I can't take that risk. My brothers' lives are in my hands, and I must be responsible for them. The situation happened so suddenly that I didn't have time to tell you. Moreover, I must do it when I put it forward, so when it was brought up, I cut off all contact with myself. So that's it. Chu Xia looked him up and down. Although I'm not very smart. But you're not stupid. In principle, you can't tell me what you said, right? Yes. Zhou Mikang smiled at her, but I have to tell you. You must also know what others don't know. There are some things I still need your advice on. How about it, Comrade Lin Chuxia, are you willing to do it? My personal informant. Okay. I do. Chu Xia nodded seriously. I understand what you mean. You don't want me to misunderstand, don't worry. I won't misunderstand. I believe in you, just like you believe in me. I really want your help. When you have time in the next few days, you can tell me in detail what you know about this war. I will deploy in advance and we must minimize casualties. Okay, Chu Xia nodded vigorously. She had a feeling of excitement. She never thought that she could be so useful in saving many people. Zhou Mikang moved closer to Chu Xia, holding her in his arms with the quilt. He liked this feeling of being loved and trusted, and throwing her into his arms felt like he owned the whole world. Zhou Mikang, please help Zhou Hanliang. Chu Xia looked up at him. It's almost the Chinese New Year. Daodu is very happy on the surface, but he must be very sad in his heart. Jun Daodu has never returned home. No, she always goes to her adoptive father and mother's house during breaks. She said she would also go to her adoptive father and mother's house to spend the New Year. But, it's not like she doesn't have her biological parents, so how can she feel comfortable? These days, when everyone brought up the topic of the New Year, she remained silent and couldn't help her, so we didn't mention it much. Originally, I was worried about what would happen if you couldn't come back. I couldn't let her. Do you really spend the Chinese New Year at your adoptive father and mother's house? Zhou Mikang sighed, okay, I will go talk to Deputy Commander Jun tomorrow. Hey, Chu Xia kissed him on the cheek, only success is allowed, no failure is allowed. As you command. He. Looking at the time, Chu Xia smiled and pushed him, I'm going to take a shower. Turn your back and throw your pajamas to me. So particular, Zhou Mikang muttered, but he turned around obediently and handed the pajamas to Chu Xia. When the other party entered the bathroom, he simply took a bath towel and went downstairs to wash up. Xiaojing and Sister Lu were busy making breakfast in the kitchen. When they heard a noise, they looked out and poked Sister Lu excitedly, what's wrong? Sister Lu turned to look at her and asked. The third young master is back. Xiaojing's eyes were full of light, I saw it. Really? Ms. Lu chanted Umitba repeatedly and stretched her head to look outside, where are you going? Bathroom. Xiaojing smiled softly, Sister-in-law Lu, do you think we will have several more people in our family during the Chinese New Year next year? You're not very young, but you really have a lot to think about. Sister-in-law Lu shook her head in a funny way, and then couldn't help but nod, I will definitely add several more people next year, and the family will be really lively. Yes, seeing the way the old lady and the madam looked at other people's children made me panic. Don't worry about the old lady and my wife. What about you, what are your plans? Sister-in-law Lu looked at her with some worry, after this year, you are also 21. What did Zhang Ma say? Son, have you made up your mind? Sister-in-law Lu, I want to stay in the Zhou family. Xiaojing's eyes turned red, our family has been part of the Zhou family for generations. If I marry into the family of Zhang Ma's nephew, I probably won't be allowed to work in the Zhou family. No more. I can't bear it. Then are you willing to give up Zhang Jun? Xiaojing was hesitant and speechless. Zhang's mother's surname is actually Wang, and her husband's surname is Zhang. She came to this compound 5 years ago to work in the Liao family, and she is close to Ms. Lu. Zhang Jun is Zhang's nephew. He is 28 years old this year. Company commander. Zhang Jun looks good, but he is not very tall and his face is a bit dark. Several girls he introduced to him thought they didn't like him because of these two qualities. 1 and 2 visits have delayed him to this extent. A few days ago, when he came to deliver something to Zhang Ma, he happened to meet Ms. Lu and Xiaojing. As a result, he fell in love with Xiaojing at first sight, and then asked Zhang Ma to convey his thoughts to Xiaojing. Now, it's up to Xiaojing to decide whether to agree or not. If she agrees, Zhang Jun hopes to get married as quickly as possible. There is no one in Xiaojing's family. The Zhou family is her home, and the Zhou family is her relatives. Otherwise, she would not have happened because she disliked Ying for abandoning the Zhou family, so she deliberately scolded Ying. She was serious. I want to maintain this home from the bottom of my heart, but sometimes I use the wrong method. So, for Xiaojing, it is a very good opportunity to have such a man who likes her and wants to marry her. However, if she marries Zhang Jun, it may not be suitable for her to stay in the Zhou family as a nanny. Zhang's mother made it clear that Zhang Jun's parents were very opposed to being a nanny. Although Zhang's mother made more money in the Liao family than Zhang Jun's parents, they still felt that it was embarrassing for her to do this. Zhang's mother also said that because Zhang Jun is older, they don't mind if their daughter-in-law is a nanny, but they will never accept it after they get married. This is a dilemma. Of course she wants love and marriage, but if she leaves the Zhou family, she will be a duckweed without roots, and there is a reason that she can never say. Oh, you should decide earlier. When Zhang Ma saw me yesterday, she urged me again. She said that during the new year, someone must introduce Zhang Jun to his girlfriend. If you don't hurry up and let others take the lead, you won't be able to do it. I regret it. Sister-in-law Lu, if it were you, what would you choose? Xiaojing asked the question to sister-in-law Lu. I've really thought about this. After a pause, Ms. Lu said, if it were me, I would talk to the old lady and ask her to give her an idea. Xiaojing, it's impossible for you to stay unmarried for the rest of your life. The old lady is an enlightened person, she will give you good ideas. I don't dare. Xiaojing twisted her clothes and was about to cry. Is it because of what happened to Ying or before? Sister-in-law Lu sighed, you are just a child. If the old lady is really angry, how can she let you stay here? Tell me the truth, what are you doing to third young master? Madam, do you have any complaints? No. Xiaojing shook her head vigorously, really no. Xiaojing, Mrs. Lu, my eyesight is not dazzled. I have clearly seen your thoughts. But, people, you have to figure out who you are. Whether you have the third young lady or not, you have no part in it. Sister-in-law Lu. Xiaojing looked at Aunt Lu in horror, not knowing what to say. I know you have no idea now, but when the Lin family in Beijing has not found the third young madam and her family, do you dare to say that you have no idea? Aunt Lu looked at her seriously. I remind you now, I just don't want you to do it. Wrong thing. Women are most likely to make emotional mistakes. If you miss Zhang Jun this time, can you guarantee that you will meet someone better than him in the future? If you can't meet her and stay in the Zhou family, can you guarantee that you can control your own heart? Xiaojing, neither the current nor the former third young madam can compare to you. Although she originally came from a rural area, where do you have her knowledge and talent? Moreover, why does the third young master like her? Have you ever thought about it? The third young master has never been a person who only cares about appearance. Otherwise, he would not have married the third young master's wife until now. If I were you, if I had such an opportunity, I would marry myself and stay here. Who can guarantee that I will be willing to watch other people's happiness for the rest of my life? If you make the wrong move, you may regret it for the rest of your life. Why do you have to tell me? Xiaojing murmured with a pale face, I really plan to keep the secret in my heart and never let others know. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 525. One update arrived. Alas. Sighing, Mrs. Liu's voice dropped even lower. Xiaojing, if it wasn't for your own good, I definitely wouldn't have said it. For my own good? Xiaojing looked at sister-in-law Lu in confusion. You just said it because you didn't believe me, right? How could it be for my own good? If you don't say it, you will hesitate to marry and miss this opportunity. You will definitely regret it in the future. Xiaojing, I really treat you as my own daughter before worrying about this. Otherwise, this kind of what can I do to get involved in a thankless job? What good will it do to me? Xiaojing remained silent for a long time, then smiled gratefully at Mrs. Lu. I know what to do. I will tell the old lady about it after dinner and ask her to give me an idea. That's right. Mrs. Lu smiled happily. I have watched you grow up, silly boy. You will definitely understand in the future. Sister-in-law Lu. Xiaojing's voice was choked. I understand now, but it's emotionally difficult to accept leaving the Zhou family. Not necessarily. After thinking for a while, Mrs. Lu said, Zhang Jun is the one who likes you, and he took the initiative. You can discuss it with him and ask him what he means. If he agrees that you continue to stay in the Zhou family, then he will definitely have a way to convince his family. If he doesn't agree, then forget it. But Zhang's mother made it very clear that Zhang Jun's parents looked down upon being a nanny and would never accept their daughter-in-law as a nanny. Sister-in-law Lu comforted her softly, it all depends on people. It all depends on your importance in Zhang Jun's heart. You can tell him your life experience and your feelings for the Zhou family. If he really likes you, he will definitely. I will convince your family for you. Actually, even from the perspective of helping his career, it is definitely better for you to stay in the Zhou family than to go elsewhere. He should understand the reason. Sister-in-law Lu. After hesitation, Xiaojing frowned. Do you think Jong Jun fell in love with me and wanted to marry me because of my work in the Joe family? You kid. Sister-in-law Lu smiled helplessly. If this was really the reason, it would be impossible for Mother Jong to say those words to you, right? That's right. Xiao Jing scratched her head in confusion. It's really troublesome when you grow up. When I was a kid, I never had to think about these things. I just had to do good things and didn't have to think about anything else. It was great back then. How can a person remain a child? However, speaking of which, you are not old enough to rush to find your husband's family, but... Sighing, Mrs. Lu patted Xiaojing. There is no store like this after passing this village. You'd better seize the opportunity. Yes, Xiaojing nodded. Sister-in-law Lu, I know. At this time, everyone got up one after another. The two people quickly stopped talking and started working quickly. The first couple to come out were Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan. They were used to being diligent. Wake up at midnight in the morning and take the initiative to help with housework. No matter what, they can't change this habit. Zhao Yulan went to the kitchen. Lin Baohe went to the yard to clean up. Knowing the habits of his parents, Chu Xia pulled Zhou Mikang down early to greet them. The couple was overjoyed at the sudden return of their son-in-law. Chu Xia's absent-mindedness these days frightened them. They wanted to ask, but didn't dare to ask, for fear that something had happened to Zhou Mikang. Now that they saw their son-in-law with a full beard and tail, they were only happy. Because he had a criminal record, the Zhou family was not surprised by Zhou Mixang's sudden appearance. They saw him every day. Mr. Zhou and his wife just nodded at him. Lin Yangkai was a little more enthusiastic and punched her son on the chest. He cursed smelly boy. As for the brothers Zhou Zikang and Zhou Huikang, they glanced at him with eyes that only men could understand, and then went to wash up with their companions. Zhou Mikang glanced at them lightly and looked at Mr. Zhou. Grandpa, do they usually get up at this time? No, no, Zhou Huikang ran over anxiously. Yesterday, my eldest brother and I chatted a little late and got up late. We usually get up at 6 o'clock to exercise. If you don't believe me, you can ask my dad. Zhou Shanping and Wang Lei moved outside after getting married, and Zhou Huikang also lived with them. That's why he was so anxious to explain. Why are you so afraid? Zhou Mikang looked him up and down. Is there something that is inconvenient for everyone to know? No, no, Zhou Huikang looked at old Mrs. Zhou for help. Grandma, third brother is always so suspicious of people, how can this be done? If you have nothing to suspect, what are you afraid of? Zhou Huikang, third sister-in-law. Chu Xia spread her hands helplessly. I don't understand, and I have no right to speak. Dad, hurry up and help me prove. Just as Zhou Shanping and Wang Lei were going downstairs, Zhou Huikang asked him for help urgently. Good morning, third uncle and third aunt. Zhou Mikang and Chu Xia greeted almost at the same time. Xiaomi is back. Zhou Shanping looked at him with a smile. I have lost weight and become darker. I need to take good care of myself during the new year. Come back. Wang Lei felt a little embarrassed, so she nodded and asked vaguely. She didn't know how to call Zhou Mixang. Zhou Zikang had already finished washing and came out, so he poked Zhou Huikang. What on earth are you hiding from us? Just explain it to the third child for a long time. No, no, Zhou Huikang glanced at Zhou Mixang with some guilt, and quickly went to wash up. No, absolutely wrong. Zhou Zikang frowned and thought for a while, then looked at Zhou Shanping. Uncle Third, what's wrong with Xiahua recently? Zhou Shanping thought for a while and shook his head. It's nothing. He looked at Wang Lei and said, what do you think? I think it's okay too. Zhou Zikang rolled his eyes, asked third aunt, she's too embarrassed to say anything, right? Then he looked at Zhou Mikang, third aunt, right? Zhou Mikang glared at him and said, what is it? Go take care of your sister-in-law. Pregnant women cannot be around anyone. It's different, it's different. Everyone knows how to care about people. Listening to Josei Kang muttering as he went upstairs, Jo Mi Kang looked at Lin Yang Kaiu. Mom, is my brother pregnant too? He hasn't been so talkative before. You guy, Lin Yang Kaiu looked at him dumbfounded. Have you ever said that about your eldest brother? Luo Xiaoqing and Wang Jing were the last to get up and come down. Seeing that everyone was already up, they felt a little embarrassed. When they said hello, they were too embarrassed to look up. When she saw Zhou Mixang, Luo Xiaoqing was shocked to death. After saying hello, she pulled Chu Xia aside and asked in a low voice, when did he come back? Midnight. Chu Xia also whispered back, I asked, my brother won't be back until 2 days later, don't worry. Luo Xiaoqing raised her eyebrows, who's in a hurry? I'm just curious. By the way, did the leader go back there and find no one, so he came here again? We spent the New Year's Eve at the Zhou family's old house, so we all rested there at night. Chu Xia really didn't realize this question. When Luo Xiaoqing asked, she suddenly slapped her forehead. I forgot to ask, I will definitely ask when I go back, hee hee. Look how you gloat about misfortune. Luo Xiaoqing rolled her eyes at him with contempt. Have you forgotten who was as anxious as a dead dog yesterday? Who are you talking about? Chu Xia glared at her and saw Wang Jing standing not far from the two of them with an embarrassed look on her face. She quickly stepped forward and pulled her over. Sit down, what are you doing standing there? Wang Jing smiled sheepishly. I was afraid that it would be inconvenient for me to come here if you whispered. There is nothing inconvenient. Luo Xiaoqing saw Zhou Mixang coming back and was concerned about when my brother would come back. You didn't forget that she is my cousin-in-law, right? I haven't forgotten, but I don't have a boyfriend and I'm embarrassed to get close to you. What's the matter? It's about fate. What's there to be embarrassed about? Luo Xiaoqing said and looked at Chu Xia. By the way, let's take some time before the year to have a meal with our old roommates. Chu Xia nodded. Okay, I have no objection, you can organize it. After a moment of hesitation, Wang Jing said, don't think I'm too talkative. I advise you to forget it. Luo Xiaoqing was stunned. Why? Is there anything wrong with this? Chu Xia also looked at her in surprise, expressing that she didn't understand. Lin Chuxia, you are married to the famous Captain Zhou. Luo Xiaoqing, you have the opportunity to follow Director Su to the bureau. What about the others? Besides the intern nurses, they are also intern doctors. Do I need to say more? Luo Xiaoqing scratched her head and said uncertainly, you mean, others will think that we are showing off? What do you think? Luo Xiaoqing looked at Chu Xia, somewhat unsure of what to say. Chu Xia explained for her, she felt that no one could go home to celebrate the new year this year, so she wanted to get together. Others probably won't think so. Wang Jing sighed, I am advising you as someone who has been there. Once, we were a large group of people who apprenticed together, but now, I don't have many friends left. Just because I followed Director Song. Of course, maybe I am a villain, but sometimes, it is not easy to please someone, but it is extremely easy to offend someone. You should do less of the thankless things. Understood. Chu Xia nodded and looked at Luo Xiaoqing. Let's wait until everyone has stabilized. For now, let's forget it. Okay. Luo Xiaoqing nodded languorously. Growing up is really a very unpleasant thing. At this time, breakfast had been placed on the table. Zhou Huikang stretched his neck and said, Sister-in-law, please bring your friends for dinner. Let's go and eat. I have to go to the operating table today. I don't want to think about anything else. Let's get this done first. Chu Xia said while taking a long breath, your mission is to make me happy. Don't talk about annoying things anymore. We can't do this, let the team leader do it. Luo Xiaoqing pulled Wang Jing and quickly sat next to Zhao Yulan, quietly winking at Chu Xia. The only vacant seat was next to Zhou Mixang. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 526. The second update arrives today. This breakfast was the most crowded one in the history of the Zhou family. In addition to the Zhou family, there were also Lin Baohe and his wife, Mr. Wang, Sister Yin, Wang Jing, Luo Xiaoxian, and others. Therefore, the huge dining table was actually full. Sit in a circle. Liang Xiaohong was a little confused at this time. After the little New Year, it was the New Year. For Zhou Nanping, who was married, it was normal to stay at her husband's house for the New Year. But how could she feel better when her son Zhou Zhongkong stayed outside? Unexpectedly, her son was as stubborn as a donkey. No matter how much she tried to persuade him, he would not come back to celebrate the Spring Festival. She quietly asked him if he was going to May's house to celebrate the Spring Festival. His answer was, "I am marrying a wife, and, if you are not marrying into your family, why should you go to May's house to celebrate the New Year?" The whole family was having breakfast lively here, and when she thought of the deserted scene of her son and daughter-in-law, her eyes couldn't help but feel sore. Lin Yangkaiu, who was sitting next to her, noticed something strange about her and sighed secretly. There are some things that outsiders' advice is useless for, especially those of the younger generation. When you can't think about it, you can only let nature take its course. Isn't it the same for Zhou Mikang back then? Speaking of which, the men in the Zhou family are really stubborn. I hope Zhou Zhongkong can figure out what he wants after his stubbornness is over. After breakfast, Zhou Mikang was responsible for sending Chu Xia and Luo Xiaoxian and Wang Jing to work. Ying'er had already gone on winter vacation. When she saw Chu Xia going out, she looked at her with a look on her face. "Little aunt, will you be back at night?" "Come back." Chu Xia smiled and touched her head. "What delicious food does Ying'er want to eat?" "My aunt will buy it for Ying'er when she comes back in the evening." "I don't have anything to eat. I just want my aunt to come back and teach me how to play the piano." The little girl grinned sheepishly. "During the Chinese New Year, some of the children in our class can sing. Some can play the piano, and some can dance. There are also some who can speak crosstalk, but I don't know anything. Grandma said that my aunt is very good at playing the piano. I want to learn." In early summer, she suddenly realized that she was also a little embarrassed. She had been thinking about Zhou Mikang these days and had no intention of talking to the little girl, even though she could see that she particularly likes to stick to her after the holidays. She was too lazy to speak, so she just threw a pen to her and asked her to draw by herself. Although this child was young, his mind was very clear. Seeing her impatience, he kept silent, or he was still guessing about her. It's impossible to tell if he doesn't like her anymore. It's always hard for her to explain this kind of thing to her children. He rubbed her head and said, "Okay, my aunt will teach you if she has nothing to do from now on, but you can't find it difficult." The little girl nodded her head vigorously. "Yes. I don't mind suffering. As long as I don't lose face, I'm not afraid of suffering." Watching Chu Xia go out, the little girl still looked reluctant. Wang Lei picked her up with a smile. "My aunt will be back in the evening. Ying'er, come into the house. It's cold outside." "Your sister-in-law is so kind to Ying'er." Luo Xiaoxian looked at Wang Jing and said, "Your sister-in-law seems to be kind-hearted. She is very lucky to have Ying'er under her care." "Of course," Wang Jing said and couldn't help but shake her head. "However, it's not easy to be a stepmother." At the beginning, Ying'er didn't believe her at all and was not willing to let her hold her. "If it were me, I would probably give up." My uncle also suggested that Ying'er should continue to be with Grandma Zhou. My sister-in-law disagreed and said that if I left the child alone when she was young, she would be less likely to do so in the future. Trust her. My sister-in-law is not nice to Ying-er for any reason, she just feels that this child is quite pitiful. Her parents are not around at such a young age, and her grandma still plots against her. Of course, she knew that Ying-er would be well educated if she stayed with Grandma Jo, but since she was married to her younger uncle, she wanted to do her part so that her younger uncle would have no regrets. Chu Xia smiled and poked Jo Mikang, who was driving. Sister, I said this for you. Don't forget to learn this from your grandparents later. Disgusting, Wang Jing smiled sheepishly. Indeed, as soon as she saw Jo Mikang, she subconsciously regarded him as the spokesperson of the Zhou family. She wanted him to understand her sister-in-law's thoughts and did not want the Zhou family to misunderstand her sister-in-law. Or maybe this was the habit of being taken advantage of by her grandparents and others since she was a child. Subconsciously, she felt that others might think of them the same way. Luo Xiaoxian pretended to pat Wang Jing. Sister, sometimes the result of trust is betrayal, but sometimes, the result of trust is to make you feel that life is particularly beautiful. The key is to see if you have seen and trusted the right person. I can see that he is going to be a political cotter. Wang Jing shook her head in amusement. Can you tell me why you believe in the right person and why you believe in the wrong person? Believing in the right person means you believe in the person you should believe. Believing in the wrong person means you believe in the person you should not believe in. Wang Jing. Can you talk a little more nonsense? After the car stopped, Wang Jing and Luo Xiaoxian ran out of the car and closed the car door with a bang. You guys can chat for a while, and we will look out for you, they said, and ran to the hospital. We stood at the door and chatted. Would you like me to accompany you? Jo Mikang looked at Chu Xia seriously. I am serious. No need. Chu Xia quickly shook her head, joking. She went to the operating table and watched with her husband. Was this her plan to make people laugh to death in the future? Okay, I know you don't mind me following you. Play your best. I'll report it to my family. Let's celebrate tonight. In order not to worry the elders, he said that he would go to the operating table today, but did not say that Chu Xia would be the surgeon. That's why Jo Mikang said this. Chu Xia waved her paw at him, pushed the door and got out of the car. Her legs softened, and she almost sat on the ground. Speaking of which, it was really difficult not to be nervous. After all, she was not facing a situation by herself. A little white mouse. Jo Mikang's mouth twitched, and he resisted the urge to get out of the car to help her. After she took a few steps forward, he slowly started the car and left. Wang Jing and Luo Xiaoxian hurried over to meet her, holding her on the left and right. What's going on? Are you sad to say goodbye? It's okay. We can see you later in the evening. Chu Xia rolled her eyes at Luo Xiaoxian, knowing clearly why she was nervous, yet she still insisted on saying these stupid words. Humph, let's see how she dealt with her when she turned around. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. Early in the morning, Chu Xia went to the practice room to review again, and started preparation work at 9 o'clock. In order to make her feel confident, Song Xiao sent Wang Jing to accompany her as an assistant. The two were changing clothes in the room. Chu Xia exhaled over and over again. Wang Jing looked at her funny. Finally admit that you are nervous. Originally, I didn't deny it. Chu Xia smiled at her. Senior sister, thank you. The teacher asked me to come. What can I say to thank you? Wang Jing curled her lips at her. I don't know what you are thinking. You must have thought that I would be jealous of you as before, right? What year was that in the almanac? Would I look at people through the cracks in the door like that? You won't look at me like that, but you will still be suspicious to some extent. As for me, to be honest with you, I really envy you, but I'm not jealous. What I envy is your talent. Of course, I also envy your luck. If it weren't for Mr. Yuan, no one else would have the guts to let you try, not even Teacher Song. Therefore, you must seize this opportunity and show off to those who are waiting to see the joke. With Mr. UN and me by your side, such a small operation is simply a piece of cake for you. Right? Yes, Josei nodded, but couldn't help but become more nervous. This kind of thing is really not a matter of comfort. Once you understand it, you won't be nervous. At the same time, she also knew that she had this problem, or that it would be cured when she actually went to the operating table. Of course, if she was still so nervous that she couldn't do it herself, she would take the initiative to ask the old surgeon. No matter what, she couldn't joke with the patient's health. The patient was a man in his 40s, and he was accompanied by his wife, a woman in her 40s. The old man had already done all the ideological work in advance, so Josei introduced himself to them and said that he would during the operation. Although the couple looked a little nervous, they didn't say much. Mr. UN, you did the surgery together, right? Unable to resist, the patient's wife still asked. Yes, don't worry. Even though I am a young apprentice, few people can match my skills. Don't worry, Mr. UN smiled kindly, you have to believe in my medical ethics. The man nodded vigorously, Mr. UN, we believe in you. UN Lao pointed to the operating room, then go in. When an apprentice who has studied medicine for several months performs an operation, you can imagine the commotion in the hospital. Therefore, before the operation, many nurses and doctors who had free time came over to watch the excitement. Seeing that Josei was about to go in, Yamiru shouted in a high voice, Lin Chuxia, be careful not to cut your hand. Josei, who had already arrived at the door, turned around and smiled brightly at Yamiru in the crowd, if you have the guts, don't hold your voice and speak. Do you think I can't hear you if you scream like a crow? Childish. Before Yamiru could say anything, Josei had already entered the operating room. Everyone who was watching the excitement turned their attention to Yamiru, who had suddenly become bustling. What are you looking at? What's there to see? Yamiru glanced at it randomly, turned around and left. Jiao Mikan quickly supported her, why are you so angry about your temper? You should be happy. You have successfully angered her. She is dead, tell me, will she still have confidence when she stands on the operating table? The two of them share a teacher and hate the same people. During this time, they seem to be the same person. Oh, I'm just in a hurry. Yamiru looked up and saw the woman coming towards her, with a look of surprise on her face. Ai, why are you here? First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 527. Huang Sui looked Yamiru up and down, smiled and nodded, you look good, it seems that the little guy didn't bother you much. Yeah, I've been eating well and sleeping well recently, and I haven't vomited anymore. I feel very good, Yamiru said while stroking her belly, it's a pity that his father can't see him anymore. The smile on Huang Sui's face disappeared in an instant. Yamiru, don't think I'm a fool. I won't get involved in the grudge between you and Lin Chuxia. If you dare to use my elder brother as a trap again, my grandfather can't protect you. You. Ai. Yamiru looked at Huang Sui pitifully, you misunderstood me. I am really sorry and regret it. There will probably not be a second man like you in this world. Big brother treated me like that. Yes, Huang Sui responded lightly and walked forward. Ai, where are you going? Yamiru grabbed her, are you going to the operating room? Huang Sui frowned and looked at her, do I need to report to you what I do? No, Yamiru waved her hands quickly, I didn't mean that. I just want to see if Lin Chuxia is as talented as the rumors say. If you go to the operating room, can you take me with you? Not good. Love. Huang Sui walked away without paying attention to Yamiru. It's no longer possible for me to be with him. I'm helping you. Shut up, Huang Sui stopped and looked around. Fortunately, although there were people looking here, they were far away and could not hear their conversation. Yamiru, you can stop talking nonsense. You can be normal. A bit. You dare to say you don't like Zhou Mikang. Of course I dare. Huang Sui returned to her helplessly. You are a pregnant woman. I don't have to argue with you, but please don't slander me in this way. The Huang family had proposed marriage in the past, but I had never had to ask Zhou Mixang for it. I had no idea about it. Now that he is married, I am even less likely to have any idea. Your resentment towards him is your own business. Don't point the shit at me just to achieve your own goals. Let you come to work in the hospital. I can also make you lose this job. If you don't want to be stuck at home waiting for childbirth, just be honest and be your apprentice safely. If it's really like what you said, why did you take the initiative to apply for the preparation of a pre-war medical team? Huang Sui's eyes narrowed. Where did you hear this news? Anyway, I know. Yamiru bit her lip. Originally I didn't intend to say it, but you are deceiving yourself and I can only force you in this way. You haven't returned to the Ye family during this time. Therefore, the news must have been obtained from the Huang family. You eavesdropped on Grandpa's phone calls, right? Yamiru's eyes flickered. I was living in the dormitory during this period. How could I eavesdrop on Grandpa's phone call? Moreover, he is so vigilant, how could he let me eavesdrop? You go back to Wang's house once a week. And the last time you went back, I happened to be calling Grandpa. Do you dare to say that you weren't eavesdropping? Yamiru's neck stiffened. Yes. I heard Grandpa's call, but I didn't eavesdrop on it. I overheard it. You, let go. She looked at him in shock. Huang Sui was so close, grabbing her neck, and the cold look in his eyes made her whole body tremble. Now she really regretted her recklessness just now. If she knew that the other party was treating her like this, she would definitely not say that she had eavesdropped on it. Originally, she thought that if a girl likes someone, she will do whatever it takes to get him, so when she brings it up, she will definitely cooperate with her. Why is it so different from what she imagined? If you didn't have my brother's flesh and blood in your belly, I would really strangle you to death, Yamiru. When my brother was here, for the sake of his happiness, I would turn a blind eye to your use. However, because of you, my brother even lost his life. If you ask me who I hate the most in this world, I can tell you clearly that it is you, Yamiru. What you have to do is to give birth to the baby in your belly honestly. If you make trouble again, don't blame me for being unkind. Don't think I'm always trying to scare you with this sentence. You can ask me what kind of temper I, Huang Sui, have. At this point, she said in a low voice that only the two of them could hear, it makes a person ignorant of ghosts. It is not difficult for me to lose my life unconsciously. Even after Huang Sui left for a long time, Yamiru still stood there blankly. She couldn't understand Huang Sui's thoughts. Huang Sui was obviously very protective of her when she was in the Huang family. Why did she say these things now? Operating room. The person in charge of skin preparation is Wang Jing. Under normal circumstances, if the doctor does not take care of the apprentice, this is the job of the nurse. However, since Mr. Yuan brought Chu Xia and Wang Jing together for the surgery, the skin preparation work naturally does not need to be bothered anymore. Nurse. This kind of work is often done, and Wang Jing is used to it, but it is normal for patients not to be used to it. Therefore, when Wang Jing lifts off the sheets of the naked patient, he jumps out of the car in a panic. He got on the hospital bed, and when he jumped down, he realized that he was completely naked. He hurriedly covered his important position with his hands and ducked down on the bed. This was the first time Wang Jing encountered such a thing, so she looked at Mr. Yuan in panic, not knowing what to do. Hey, sighing helplessly, Mr. Yuan shouted to the patient under the bed, come out, the doctor is male or female, come out and operate quickly. Mr. Yun, I don't want a female nurse. The man huddled under the bed and refused to come out. Okay, I'll prepare the skin for you, and you come out. Let the female doctor and female nurse turn their backs first. Chu Xia pulled Wang Jing's back expressionlessly and followed Song Xiao to the operating table several times. She no longer made a fuss about sex. Since she planned to be a doctor, she couldn't be pretentious at this time. Of course, when the patient wants to be pretentious, she can only cooperate with her best to make the patient feel comfortable. Slowly, the man climbed onto the operating bed by himself. The anesthesiologist could hardly stop laughing. This was the first time he had seen such a bearish man in so many years of work. At most, others would cover their faces in embarrassment and be embarrassed to look at others, but this one is really good. He can roll off the bed by himself, which is really. As promised, Mr. Yun finished preparing the man's skin and looked at him seriously. You have agreed that Dr. Xiaolin will operate on you, and now you don't let female nurses and doctors face you. What's going on? I thought I could adapt to it, but. The man's face turned pale. But I'm sorry, Mr. Yun, you should do the surgery on me, okay? No, you have already signed the consent form for the surgery. The surgeon is Lin Chuxia, not me. At this time, the door of the operating room was pushed open, and Huang Sui and Dean Su came in. The man reached out his hand to cover his lower body in a panic. Why do we need so many female doctors? I won't do it, I won't do it. Is life more important or shyness? Chu Xia turned around and glared at him. I'm not even embarrassed. What are you embarrassed about? Just lie down and prepare for the operation. Huang Sui raised her brows and looked at Chu Xia carefully. She had to admit that Lin Chuxia's appearance was really pleasing. Generally, female doctors would not be good looking when dressed up like this. However, that surgical hat looked like Lin Chuxia's. When Chu Xia wears it on her head, her bare forehead is exposed, which will only make people see her exquisite appearance more clearly. No wonder Zhou Mikang was so interested in her. No wonder Yamira couldn't compete with her. However, she still liked Lin Chuxia's attitude towards patients. As a woman, since she became a doctor, she couldn't be coy. The anesthesiologist took advantage of the patient's days and took the time to perform local anesthesia. Treat me as a man, and you will feel better. Before the medicine took effect, Chu Xia was doing ideological work for the man in a soft voice. But you are a woman. I'm a man now. She is obviously a woman. The corner of Yuan Lao's mouth twitched, and he patted the aggrieved man. You, please have the courage to agree to let Dr. Xiaolin perform the surgery. Trust me, Dr. Xiaolin will never let you down. Chu Xia chuckled. I promise, I will give you a very beautiful stitch so that you won't be able to see any scars after you heal. I'm not a woman. It doesn't matter whether I have scars or not. The man couldn't help but mutter in a low voice. At this moment, he felt stiff from the waist down. He couldn't help but pinch his thigh with his hand. Finally, he looked at Mr. Yun with some worry. After I recover, will it be okay to walk on this leg? No problem. By the time Yuan Lao answered, Chu Xia had already incised the skin and subcutaneous fat. His fingers flexibly picked up the two superficial abdominal wall arteries to ligate and cut them off, and then incised the deep superficial fascia along the direction of the incision. Use gauze-wrapped fingers to bluntly separate the connective tissue under the deep layer of the superficial fascia on both sides to expose the external oblique aponeurosis. Make a small incision in the external oblique aponeurosis. First use scissors to secretly separate under the aponeurosis, and then use scissors. Lift up the aponeurosis and cut upward and downward along the direction of the fibers. The patient's hernia sac was not prominent enough. Chu Xia looked at the patient with soft eyes. Cough hard. Cough. Cough. The moment the hernia sac protruded, Chu Xia quickly opened the incision. The whole operation process was a pleasure to watch. Her fingers were flying so nimbly. As an assistant, Wang Jing didn't even think that it was Chu Xia's first time on the operating table. In the past, she worked as an assistant for veteran doctors. That's it? In the eyes of others, it was a pleasure, but Chu Xia herself felt it was a pleasure. Before going to the operating table, her calves were trembling with nervousness. Even when the patient asked her to turn her back, her expressionless face was concealing her nervousness. However, when she picked up the scalpel and cut it, she had no distracting thoughts in her heart. She just thought about cutting this. Do things well and do your best. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 528. You were born to be a doctor. Huang Sui did not hesitate to praise Chu Xia, and you could tell by the look in her eyes that she was sincere. Thank you. The other party behaved in a friendly manner, so Chu Xia would not be cold-hearted, so she smiled lightly and said, thank you for your recognition. I'm just a fair judge. Huang Sui turned to look at Dean Su. If Mr. Liang hadn't been so quick, I would have really wanted to snatch her away. Haha. Dean Su smiled and did not answer her words. As everyone walked out, Huang Sui was so smart that she immediately revealed the truth. Are you worried about her being my assistant, afraid that I will abuse her? You think too much. Dean Su turned around and patted her. You are a genius, and Chu Xia's talent is also good, so it would be a good choice for you to take her. However, the grievances between your two families are there. Whether you are suitable to be her teacher is very obvious, so why should I say anything? Well, you are right to be worried, but to tell you the truth, if she really follows me, I will definitely have stricter requirements on her than others, and I guess she won't be able to bear it. When saying this, Huang Sui deliberately raised his voice, just enough for Chuxia, who was walking in front, to hear. However, Chuxia didn't answer. Mr. Yuan turned around, looked at Huang Sui, and snorted, you want to steal my students? Huang Sui blinked at him. Mr. Yuan, I don't dare to steal your student. This is praising your student, can't you hear it? I will accept the compliment. If you have any other thoughts, take them back. Yuan Lao looked at her seriously. Chu Xia is a good young talent, no matter who it is. If I want to destroy her, I will destroy that person first. Old Yuan is threatening me. Huang Sui looked at Dean Su with a smile. I've heard before that Mr. Yuan is very protective of the calf, and now I've learned the lesson. It's not as simple as just protecting the calf. I didn't show any ill intentions at all, but Mr. Yuan was ready to chop me with a knife. If I really have ill intentions towards Mr. Yuan's precious disciple, I guess he can kill me with one knife. Several people murmured in the background, but Chu Xia and Wang Jing didn't look back and followed the operating bed straight to the ward. After explaining how to care for the patient's family, they came back out. Fine. Dean Su and others are no longer here. Wang Jing breathed a sigh of relief. Chu Xia, I really don't know whether your talent is a blessing or a curse. Normally, it is a good thing to be favored by Huang Sui, but I always feel that something is not right about this. There is no one in the circle who doesn't want to be Huang Sui's student. After all, given her age, if she can be her apprentice, as long as it's not too bad, the future prospects will definitely be the same. However, I have never heard that she is so interested in any student. Although she keeps saying that she does not plan to rob you, you can tell by the tone of her voice. She really likes you and wants you to be with her. She just said that if I really wanted to be with her, she probably wouldn't have said that. Chu Xia smiled and shook her head, or maybe she wanted me to know that she and Yamiru are not on the same page. Yes. Chu Xia couldn't tell Wang Jing the key reason. Within a period of time, Huang Sui will work with Zhou Mixang, probably to inoculate herself in front of her. Although she doesn't have much contact with Huang Sui, from other people's descriptions and her own performance, it can be seen that she is a girl who has a very strong self-esteem, loves face, and is very arrogant. I think I already knew what she knew about her past affairs, so I showed up here on purpose, and explained it to her in this way, right? I just want to tell her that she has no thoughts about her husband, otherwise, she would not be so close to her. What could she say? Besides pretending to be deaf and dumb, what else can I do? Anyway, she felt that the possibility of her becoming friends with the other party was very small. By the way, I haven't praised you yet. Wang Jing looked at Chu Xia excitedly. When you stood on the operating table, you were so beautiful. I didn't think you were a novice intern at all. I worked as an assistant to Director Song before, and also worked as an assistant to Director Huang, Director Liu, and I can say without exaggeration that you are no worse than any of them in this surgery. I won't be arrogant, I just have more flexible hands. Chu Xia spread her hands. Don't worry, I can recognize my position clearly, so I won't be confused by your praise. Although the hospital did not specifically publicize the incident of going on the operating table in early summer, within one day, the incident spread throughout the hospital. First of all, it is Yuan Lao's boldness. Some people would think that Mr. Yuan was using the back door to dote on his disciples too much. In fact, no one knew who had tricked the health bureau. A leader even called Mr. Yuan specifically to talk to him. Furthermore, everyone thinks that Chu Xia is lucky. Among the students who studied together, none with better grades than her had such a chance, so it was her turn. When I went to class in the afternoon, the students in the classroom were absolutely distinct. The students from the former women's medical team were all from the 401 class. The eyes they looked at Chu Xia were full of hostility, especially those who were ranked third in the class. Lu Xinghua and Zhang Junmei, if they could kill with a knife, they would have stabbed a bloody hole in Chu Xia long ago. Not making people jealous is mediocre, Luo Xiaoxian comforted Chu Xia like this. Chu Xia just gave her a big look and said it in front of so many people. Is it really for her own good? Doesn't this mean that except for her, most people are mediocre? Although this is true, many people don't think so. Fortunately, Qiao Ning'ai, Yang Xiali, Lin Mengran, and Wu Jingbo all adapted to Luo Xiaoxian's way of speaking, and they were really happy for Chu Xia from the bottom of their hearts. At the same time, they were also full of hope for their future, as long as they were willing to work hard. Maybe they can go to the operating table early. The patient's family came to Chu Xia in the afternoon and said that they apologized to Chu Xia on behalf of her husband, Dr. Xiaolin. My man has been shy since he was a child. It's not that he doesn't believe you. Don't be the same as him. Chu Xia hurriedly said, Auntie, I know, this shows that uncle is decent, I won't be angry, you can take care of uncle with peace of mind. What's wrong? Song Xiao, who didn't know the situation, asked doubtfully. Teacher, by the way, I forgot to tell you. Wang Jing smiled and told Song Xiao what happened in the operating room. He's really a good man. Song Xiao smiled and shook her head. Fortunately, this is a minor surgery. If a patient undergoing a major surgery goes through this kind of trouble, the doctor would really be worried. It's not my turn to have a major surgery. When the operation was performed in early summer, Song Xiao went to the operating table. She had just seen him after the operation, so she came over to please him. Teacher, do you think my performance today is okay? Song Xiao smiled and said proudly, everyone I met when I came back from the operation asked me about your situation. Do you think it's okay? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 529. One update arrived. Teacher, can't you praise me in front of me? Chu Xia protested dissatisfiedly, except for senior sister, no one has praised me. People also need encouragement. No one praises you. Wang Jing's eyes widened. Are you sure no one praises you? Mr. Yuan, Dean, and Huang Sui, do you want me to continue counting? Before Chu Xia could speak, Song Xiao frowned and asked, Huang Sui is here. Wang Jing nodded, yes, she was there during the entire operation. Isn't this embarrassing for you? Song Xiao looked at Chu Xia and asked. Praise me. Chu Xia shrugged, although I feel uncomfortable and don't know what her purpose is, I still accepted it calmly. Well, just accept it. You don't have to be polite with her. No, I have to go to the dean's place to have a look. Song Xiao stood up as she spoke, and told the two of them to keep a close eye on her, and she went to find out the news. Why do I think the teacher is so jealous of that Huang Sui? Wang Jing stretched her head forward as she spoke, lowering her voice. By the way, I heard that the dean is going to be transferred. Does this have anything to do with it? It's possible. Chu Xia nodded, but it's impossible for Huang Sui to be the director of our hospital, right? What about her age and qualifications? Besides, her medical skills are so good, wouldn't it be a pity to switch to administration? You can also be a doctor if you become a dean. Wang Jing denied it herself, however, I don't think it is possible. Even if she has good medical skills, if she becomes a dean at this age, many people will definitely be unconvinced. And good medical skills does not mean prestige, but she seems to be quite prestige, eh? Chu Xia interrupted her helplessly, okay. Don't worry about it. We are just soldiers. If we learn medical skills well and make no mistakes, it will be the same for anyone who becomes the dean. Yes, Wang Jing nodded, it's the same for me, but it's probably different for you. Don't think that I don't understand anything just because I'm an ordinary person and hang out with you every day. I also have a brain. Senior sister. Chu Xia looked at her helplessly, no one will say that you have no brains. I'm in a hurry with him. No, are you really not worried at all? Wang Jing looked at Chu Xia's expression. What if Huang Sui becomes the dean, what will you do? What do you want me to do? Didn't you say that she liked Captain Zhou? If she becomes the dean, she will definitely wear small shoes for you. Then what else can you do? Anyway, although she was quite friendly to you today, I still feel uncomfortable. I didn't quite understand it at the time, but now I think about it. Maybe she's pretending, her real feelings are definitely different from those she pretends to be. I used to admire her a lot unexpectedly, she is also such a hypocritical person. She must be thinking of using this method to make others feel that she treats you well. Then, others won't think too much when giving you little shoes to wear. If you resist, you might get laughed at. Well, that's definitely the case. It's so despicable. Chu Xia looked at Wang Jing speechlessly. Sure enough, some factors in a person's personality are difficult to change. Wang Jing used to be very suspicious of people and instinctively hostile to potential opponents. Now, she has changed, but in her bones suspicious, still the same. Of course, she knew Wang Jing's feelings. If it weren't for her own sake, Wang Jing wouldn't have to make these assumptions to guess Huang Sui. It's just that the other party made this inference because he was thinking about her. However, based on what she heard from others about Huang Sui's behavior, she shouldn't be so naive. If it were Yamiru, she would definitely believe it. She will do this. Speaking of which, Yamiru seems to be older than Huang Sui. This woman is really old but careless. She has a big belly and comes to confront her. I really don't know what is in her mind. It seems that in Mr. Wang's heart, Huang Xinlong is still a very important existence. Otherwise, Yamiru would not be allowed to go to 401 to embarrass himself. He. Wang Jing also realized that she was overthinking, so she smiled sheepishly, forget it, I won't make blind guesses. Soldiers will stop you, and water will flood you. If you think too much now, you are asking for trouble. Dong dong. The two turned around and saw Gu Guo standing at the door. Wang Jing looked at the time. Are you done? Come in and sit down when you are done. Well, I'm done. The operation went very well, Gu Guo said with a smile. Every operation goes smoothly with the teacher's intervention. I think, in a while, the teacher's reputation will surpass that of Director Huang in Beijing. Wang Jing looked at Chu Xia with a smile. Do you have a lingering feeling? Chu Xia smiled and shook her head, looking at the results. Senior brother, is there something wrong with coming here in such a hurry? Yes, the teacher has allowed me half a month's leave. I plan to go back to my hometown to be with my grandparents. During the Chinese New Year, my parents will also go back. If Zyra comes to see you during this process, please be sure to keep her address, and tell her that I have been waiting for her. Okay, Chu Xia nodded. If she comes to see me, I will definitely tell her and leave her address. Actually. After a pause, Gu Guo smiled sheepishly. It was because I was always in a bad state that the teacher gave me such a long leave. I returned to my hometown hoping to find traces of her there. The distance between Zyra's grandma's house and my grandparents' house is not very far, or they may have gone back there. I had thought of this possibility before and also went to her grandma's house to look for it. Unfortunately, they all answered me no. But after much thought, I felt that it was impossible for them to go to other places. This time I had time, so I went there every day to check. If she was really there, I would always meet her. Wang Jing looked at him with a smile. As a result, you can't tell, you are really infatuated. I only realized how important she was to me when I lost her. Wang Jing, if you meet a man who expresses love for you, you must think clearly before rejecting him. The feeling of regret is too uncomfortable. Results. Wang Jing looked at him bitterly. Are you deliberately making fun of me because I'm single and no one is chasing you? Chu Xia, if there is a suitable man, please introduce him to Wang Jing. You can tell by looking at her now that she is already anxious. Otherwise, she wouldn't mind what I say. After the words fell, Gu Guo had already ran out, making Wang Jing jump in anger. Asshole, just wait for me. If Zyra comes, I will say a lot of bad things about you. No, Zhuliang was so frightened that he quickly stepped back. I was wrong, I apologize to you, Comrade Wang Jing. I don't dare to talk nonsense anymore. You, what are you doing? Suddenly Wang Jing pulled her sleeves, and her voice changed in surprise. Be natural, Wang Jing warned him in a low voice with a smile on her face. If you don't want me to say bad things in front of Xiao Ru, then act with me properly. The man coming across is called Wang Jun, and he is my half-brother. The younger brother, the woman behind him, is his half-sister Wang Nan. Why you were asked to play the role, you will know later. Okay, Guyi simply responded and said no more. After working together for so long, he still knew the situation of Wang Jing's family, especially when Qin Mei was hospitalized. Wang Jing's stepmother and brothers even took Wang Jing's father to the hospital and left him alone. Later, it was the officer from Wang Jing's stepmother's workplace who came forward and forced her stepmother to take Wang Jing's father back. Since then, Wang Jing has often gone home to see her father. Although she never talked about her family's situation in front of her colleagues, she knew that she would definitely have trouble with that family. When they got closer, Wang Jun's eyes paused for a moment on Guo Guo's face, then turned to Wang Jing. Sister, why didn't you go home yesterday? Yes, Xiao Jing, Dad has been waiting for you, and later he cried, saying that it was his fault that we were not reunited even in the next year. Wang Nan said, wiping the corners of her eyes, I know, you have always hated my mother. I hate Wang Lan, and I also admit that we were young and naive in the past and always snatched everything from you. It was our fault. But now, my sister and I have realized our mistakes, and we also want to get along well with you, sister, to make Dad happy. It's not like you don't know about his body. He can finally stand up and take 2 steps. Is it possible? Do you want him to lie back down again? Originally, everyone was happily waiting for you on New Year's Eve, but there was no sign of you until 10 o'clock. Dad went back to the room and lay down without saying a word, and he hasn't eaten until now. There was no other way, so I brought Zayajun to come with you. He is your biological father. If something really happened, you wouldn't be able to live with it, right? Okay, I'll go back after work. Josei, can you go home with me? Wang Jing turned to look at Guo Guo, pinched him hard in her hand, and was stunned for a moment. Josei hurriedly said, okay, I'll accompany you when you go back, you can meet Dad too. Who is he? Wang Jun frowned and stared at Wang Jing. When did you hook up with him? Wang Jing looked at Wang Jun expressionlessly. He is your brother-in-law. You have to be polite when you speak. What is hooking up? He and I are both single and unmarried. We are about the same age. We are matched by a matchmaker. How can we call it hooking up? Why didn't I listen to you last time when I went home? Wang Nan smiled lightly. Xiaojing, you have had a bad temper since you were a child. Now that you are older, you can no longer be stubborn about this kind of thing. Why am I being stubborn? If I take my boyfriend home to see my dad, I am called being stubborn. Wang Jing snorted coldly. I already know what you two mean. I will go back in the evening. You can go. I'm still at work, so it's not convenient to entertain you. You can go back, but he can't. Wang Jun pointed to the results. If you take him back, don't think I'm rude, and don't blame me for not caring about the relationship between brother and sister. You and I still have a brother-sister relationship. Wang Jingqi laughed. How come these words are so funny when they come out of your mouth? Wang Jun, you are really good at putting gold on your face. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 530. Second update arrived. Wang Jing, don't act like everyone owes you. It was you who wanted to leave home to live with your aunt. It's basically you who abandoned us. Wang Jun snorted coldly. Originally, if you stayed by taking care of me, my mother can go to work and earn more money for the family. The eldest and second sisters don't have to drop out of school early and now they can't find a good job. But for your own enjoyment, you deliberately didn't work well, angered your mother, and spoke ill of your mother in front of your sister-in-law, asking her to take you away. Where were you when we were eating chaffy vegetables in those years? Where were you when we were freezing and hungry? You complain everywhere, saying that your parents abandoned you. Isn't it because you don't want to support your parents in old age? But don't forget, even if you live with your sister-in-law, you are still your father's daughter, and it was he who raised you until you were nearly 10 years old. Now that Dad has difficulty moving, as his daughter, do you want to repay the kindness of raising him in the past 10 years? If you dare to ignore it, I will definitely make it impossible for you to see anyone in the future. Wang Jun's voice was so loud that doctors and nurses from nearby offices came out to watch the excitement. Patients and their family members who came to see the doctor also stretched their necks out of curiosity. Obviously, Wang Jun wanted this effect, and he was using this method to force Wang Jing. Wang Jing was not the first to know about Wang Jun's shamelessness, so when he spoke, she did not stop him, nor did she look particularly angry. She just listened to him with a smile. At this moment, his voice fell, and she answered with a smile, "Are you done?" "No." "Then continue." Wang Jing smiled at the onlookers. "It's my honor to make everyone happy," he said apologetically and looked at the results. He lowered his voice and said, "I'm sorry. I dragged you into the water." "It's okay." Guguo held her hand tightly. "I will cooperate to the end." Tisk, tisk. Wang Jun clapped his hands. "Are you showing off your affection here?" "Wang Jing, don't forget, Dad has already arranged a baby for you to kiss. Now that you are looking for a man, you are forcing Dad to be shameless. He is already paralyzed on the bed. If you force him again, you don't need to remind me what will happen, right? It's not like you don't know that the Chiao family has come over to deliver the post. You can figure it out yourself. If you want to force Dad to death, find another man. Chu Xia came to the door and gently tugged at Wang Jing. There was some worry in her eyes. She did not expect that things would get so noisy. Otherwise, she had just invited a few people into the house to talk. It would be better now. All the idle people came to watch. Wang Jing smiled at Chu Xia. Turning to look at Wang Jun, I knew you were here to force me when you came over, so I was ready to make everything public. That's right. Growing up, I had a very low self-esteem because other people had parents who loved me. But I didn't, fortunately. My aunt took pity on me and adopted me. Make me feel the warmth of home. However, I clearly know that my aunt is good to me, but I still doubt her. She has been taken advantage of too many times. I can't trust anyone, even after working. My friends and colleagues who were close to me gradually moved further and further away from me. While I was annoyed by my actions, I couldn't help but want to protect my position. Until I met Lin Chuxia, from her, I saw what I lacked. I tried to be more generous and broaden my horizons. In fact, I have indeed changed a lot than before. When my father was carried to the hospital, many colleagues saw it. After that, no one mentioned it in front of me. I know that everyone was afraid of embarrassing me, but today, if you make trouble like this, if I continue to be so scrupulous, probably, I will live in fear all my life. So, I chose to open the scar and squeeze out the pus. It would hurt, but once it hurts once, it would be fine again. It would leave a scar, but those who really like me wouldn't care about that scar. You siblings came here today just to force me to submit and marry a man who can bring you benefits. The so-called baby kiss is an excuse for you. Dad told me personally that he had never arranged a baby kiss for me. Before, he was fooled by lard and believed your provocation. Now, he has regretted it and decided not to force me anymore. Don't always threaten me with Dad's body. He is my dad and your dad. He is the dad who raised you. Dad raised me until I was 10 years old. I will shoulder my responsibilities. However, Dad, you have raised her for more than 20 years, and you must also shoulder your responsibilities. Now that I see that my dad is getting older and in poor health, I want to push him to my side and ignore everything. Is this what humans do? Do you still want shame after doing something like this? Originally, when I saw you guys coming over, I just wanted Gu Guang to pretend to be my boyfriend and help me avoid disaster. I didn't expect that you guys insist on making things like this. Then I'll make everything clear. I don't have a boyfriend. However, I will never marry that Li Dajin just because you threatened me with my father. Don't you think it's ridiculous that a man who can be my father actually promised to marry me as a baby? Wang Jun and Wang Nan were both stunned. They didn't expect Wang Jing to do such a thing, because in their impression, Wang Jing was such a face-saving person, so they made up their mind to let Wang Jing do such a thing. If she is embarrassed in front of others, she will definitely find ways to make amends and comply with their wishes. Why did things deviate so far? By the way, what she just said was under the influence of Lin Chuxia, which means that the culprit for things turning to this point is Lin Chuxia. Wang Jun turned his eyes to Chuxia, his eyes full of sternness. Noticing the look in his eyes, Chu Xia became vigilant. The so-called being shot even while lying down was like this for her, right? Inexplicably, why are you hated again? Wang Jing, don't be angry with people like this. We are all your brothers and sisters. If you have anything to say in the future, we will help you. That's right, I didn't expect your stepmother's child to be so bad. We will support you in the future. Wang Jing, if you have any difficulties in the future, just speak up and don't hold it in yourself. The chatter in the crowd became louder and louder, and they were all one-sided towards Wang Jing. Huh, Wang Jun turned around and left. Wang Nan hesitated and followed with stamped feet. Leaving now? Not only Chu Xia was surprised, but Wang Jing was also extremely surprised. In her impression, Wang Jun was not someone who gave up easily, or was he deliberately avoiding her because there were so many people? Alas, no matter what, it was an annoying thing. Seeing how pitiful her father was now, she couldn't help but ignore it. However, as long as she worried about her father, these people would always try to take advantage of her. It wasn't until Chu Xia dragged her to sit down that Wang Jing came back to her senses and smiled bitterly. I didn't mean to hide it from you. It's really not a glorious thing. I'm embarrassed to say it. Understood. Chu Xia patted her shoulder. You performed very well, senior sister, I am proud of you. Compared with before, you have really changed a lot. Thank you for the compliment. Wang Jing sighed and looked at Guguo, who was still standing at the door. Suguo, you can go about your business. Thank you for what you just did. No, 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 Zhuliang came back to his senses and waved his hands repeatedly. I didn't do anything to help. I just suddenly thought that Xiru and Uncle Li and Aunt Li would be forced to move to an unfamiliar place. Accepting a marriage that I don't want to accept, what if I find Xiru and she is already married? Senior brother Cheng, you have a really rich imagination. Chu Xia looked at her funny, from being forced to kiss a baby, to thinking of being forced to get married. After a pause, Chu Xia added, don't say that. It's really possible, senior brother, you really need to speed up your pace, otherwise, it won't be fun to regret it for the rest of your life. I've been taking a lot of steps, but I can't find her. Guguo sighed and looked at Wang Jing. You are sincere, I just kept pretending. Anyway, I have to wait for Xiao Ru. It's okay even if others misunderstand that I am your boyfriend. What should I do if Xiao Ru believes it? Wang Jing pouted at him. You still don't want to chop me up by then. I just asked you for help because I was in a hurry and didn't want to break up with them. Since he is going to push me to a dead end, why should I worry so much? What does the person you kissed do? Chu Xia asked. My father's former neighbor was a poor family when he was young. He had to bear the burden before he got a wife. Some time ago, I went home to visit my father. He met me and fell in love with me at first sight. Then, I always went to do my dad's work, and promised my dad that if he asked me to marry him, he would definitely help arrange Wang Jun's job in the future. My dad has lived his whole life for Wang Jun, so of course he agreed immediately. Later, when I went there, he still did my ideological work, and I fell out at that time. Then, I never went there again from that day. Later, my dad told my sister-in-law that he knew he was wrong and asked her to explain to me, saying that he regretted it and would never do such a bastard thing unfairly again. Let me go home in my childhood. I hesitated because my sister-in-law said that I could either go home to celebrate the new year or go to Joe's house, otherwise she wouldn't trust me. In the end, I chose to shamelessly go to Joe's house to celebrate the new year. Today, when Wang Jun and Wang Nan came to find me, I understood that they really arranged for me to meet that man on New Year's Eve. Fortunately, I didn't go back. Otherwise, I don't know whether I could return the whole thing. Chu Xia felt cold all over after hearing this. Don't say it in such a scary way, as if I want to force you into the bridal chamber when you go back. More or less, my dad can only move a few steps with a stick now. If they really force me, my dad won't be able to stop me even if he wants to. Of course, there is another possibility that he just doesn't want to stop. The last sentence at this time, Wang Jing's eyes were full of sadness, and she thought about what happened when she was a child. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 531. The third update has arrived. Senior sister. Chu Xia looked at Wang Jing distressedly. The reality was too cruel. She didn't know how to persuade her. Compared with the other party, even if she was forcibly transported to this era, she still fell into the trap. I'm fine. In fact, I gave up on this family a long time ago. But when I saw him become like that, I softened my heart again. Originally, when he asked my sister-in-law to send me a message, I also chose believe him. Don't go, I just don't want to face those people who don't want to see it. Unexpectedly, Wang Jing bit her lip and looked at Chu Xia. I don't want to think too much, but the reality makes me have to think too much. In fact, you have also thought about it, right? Yes, Chu Xia nodded and said, it's possible that there is still a misunderstanding. Senior sister, don't be too sad yet. After all, he is your biological father. Tiger poison cannot eat its seeds. Moreover, after he fell ill, what did you think about it? He is really good. If it weren't for you, or maybe he would be abandoned. Even if he really planned to force me to get married to that man yesterday, I would forgive him, because he gave me this life for the sake of living a better life for himself, and he would have to exchange it for me. I understand, so I forgive him. Sister. Wang Jing. Chu Xia and Guo Guo both called out. They were all frightened by Wang Jing's red eyes. Just when Song Xiao came back, she frowned when she saw Wang Jing's appearance. I've been gone for a while, what happened? When I came here just now, I found a lot of people looking over here. What happened? Teacher. Chu Xia quickly told what happened just now. It's so shameless. Song Xiao slapped the table bitterly. Looking at Wang Jing, the bullies have come here. It seems that they really think that I am half dead. Xiao Jing, don't worry, I will go find your sister-in-law after get off work today, and the two of us will handle this matter for you. Teacher, we can't let my sister-in-law go back. Wang Jing sighed. They are trying their best to gain advantage from my sister-in-law. If she goes back to talk about this matter, they will definitely make unreasonable demands. I can't let my sister-in-law do something she doesn't want to do for me anymore, teacher. Let me handle it myself, and don't worry about it. I was a little disappointed just now. If I think about it, it will be fine. I have adapted to it anyway. By the way, did the teacher find out what Huang Sui came here to do? She has a job here, so she just stopped by to take a look. It's okay. She will neither take over Dean Su's job nor come to work in our hospital. You can rest assured he said this. Song Xiao's face was a little solemn. She had never been good at concealing her emotions. Teacher, are you worried that she came here to look for Zhou Mixang on purpose? Chu Xia simply changed the topic, otherwise, everyone might have been playing riddles for how long? You understand quite well. Song Xiao smiled helplessly. Of course I know Zhou Mixang has an idea, but there is such a fly always thinking about your flesh. Do you feel comfortable? For now, her attitude towards me is okay. Or maybe we all misunderstood that she thinks too much, Chu Xia said with a smile. Besides, even if she really has that intention, I have nothing to be afraid of. Yes, if Zhou Mixang is such a half-hearted person, I won't want him. But, don't deny me, teacher, and don't teach me. What you said is so unconfident. Regardless of whether you are Zhou Mixang's wife or not, your talent in medicine is there. You can only be robbed by others, and there will never be anything left. Song Xiao said she couldn't help but laugh. Just now at Dean Su's place, she praised you a lot and even said she regretted switching to administrative work. Otherwise, she would definitely take care of you herself. Chu Xia's beautiful eyebrows were curved. Teacher, you must tell me if this happens in the future, I like to hear it. Song Xiao. Can't you be more modest? Wang Jing, who was originally depressed, finally saw a smile on her face. She stretched out her hand to poke Chuxia. Let's go to the ward. On the way home, Chuxia told Zhou Mikang about Wang Zheng. At the end, she said with a wink, I'm not nosy. First, she is the niece of the third aunt, and she was raised as a daughter-in-law. If something happens to her, the third aunt will definitely be very sad. Secondly, although she was not very kind to me in the past, she is now wholeheartedly kind to me. A person must have a conscience. I can't just watch a fire pit in front of her and pretend not to see it. Thirdly, maybe I am overthinking, but I think this possibility is relatively small, that is, her brother looked at me in a very unfriendly way before he left. I am worried that he will find a way to retaliate against me. Instead of taking precautions every day, it's better to solve the problem in advance, don't you think? Zhou Mikang glanced at her. Are you done? After thinking about it carefully for a while, Chuxia nodded. It should be finished. If there are any omissions, I will make up for them. The corner of Zhou Mikang's mouth twitched. She would leave some steps for herself. What do you mean by that expression, to help or not to help? When she didn't get any response from Ding, Chuxia said she was very depressed. I mean, you're explaining so much, isn't it a bit unnecessary? Zhou Mikang glared at her. Just tell me and ask me to handle this matter, isn't it? That's so bad. Chuxia smiled sheepishly. I am a democratic person, a person who respects other people's opinions, and a person who has escaped from vulgar taste. I am. Hearing her silence for a long time, Zhou Mikang couldn't help but asked, what is it? Chuxia raised her eyebrows proudly. He is a beautiful person. Zhou Mikang. What's that expression on your face? Do you think I'm not beautiful? Hey, let's talk, are you beautiful or not? I know, I'm not beautiful in your heart. It seems that you already have someone else in your heart. Alas, I didn't expect that I would be laid off after only a short time on the job. It's so pitiful. Unable to listen anymore, Zhou Mikang interrupted her. What are you talking about? I'm teasing you. Chuxia wrinkled her nose at him. You are always so old-fashioned, so boring. What do you want? Zhou Mikang glanced at her. Are you going to replace me, or are you going to transform me? What do you like me to do? I'll transform you. Chuxia, naughty kid. Zhou Mikang had a black line on his face and then glared at Chuxia. Did you say that about your husband? I think I have really spoiled you. Just wait and you will regret it. Instinctively, Chuxia apologized like a chicken pecking at rice. I was wrong, I just wanted to make you happy, don't take it seriously, otherwise I wouldn't be a man. Her appearance made Zhou Mikang a little depressed. Could it be that he really made her feel so terrible in that regard? Observing her expression carefully, he felt depressed. After thinking about it, he simply stopped the car and looked at Chuxia seriously. Let's talk. Talk? Chuxia smiled uncomfortably. Aren't we always talking? You made it so formal. I was so nervous to ask, what is going on? Can you tell it in a relaxed way? Are you really that afraid of me? After a pause, Zhou Mikang asked, so afraid of being intimate with me? Coughing unnaturally, Chuxia's face turned red like a shrimp. Well, it's not that I'm afraid, it's just, you're just too powerful, I can't stand it anymore. Zhou Mikang looked at her straightly. You don't reject it, do you? Huh? Chuxia took a long breath and looked at Zhou Mikang seriously. I understand what you mean when you ask me. I can tell you frankly that at first, I was afraid because I didn't have love, but now, it's not. Okay. Zhou Mikang's eyebrows were filled with a smile. I will restrain myself. What kind of restraint? Can we use the fifth girl to solve it? Someone said while stretching out his paw to shake. Her face was a bright pink color, and Danfan's charming eyes could not conceal her curiosity and narrowness. Her gorgeous lips were slightly open, Joe Mikang felt that his throat was dry for a while, and he swallowed quietly. Action, he quietly started the car. Chu Xia glanced at a certain part, and was too frightened to say anything. Men are indeed incomprehensible creatures. They just said a few words, so why is it like this? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 532. One update arrived. Wang Jing's father, Wang Qiaozu, leaned on a cane and moved forward step by step with difficulty. The beads of sweat on his forehead and the protruding veins showed his pain. Stepmother Wang Yukin was sitting on the side selecting dried beans, glancing at him from time to time without any expression. Wang Qiaozu stopped, panting heavily and looked at his wife. "Akin, bring me a dry towel and wipe my back. It's all soaked." "Take it yourself," Wang Yukin replied without raising his head. Glancing at the towel rack, Wang Qiaozu sighed and moved over with difficulty. During this time, he had gotten used to such cold looks. At first, he was angry, and protested, but what he got in exchange was double indifference and ridicule, which made him clearly realize that if he wants dignity, he must stand up on his own. He never thought that one day the person he looked forward to seeing the most would be his biological daughter who had always been disliked. With this, he began to miss his late wife. Bang! Unsteady on his feet, Wang Qiaozu rushed towards the washstand. As a result, he fell, the shelf fell, and the basin rolled. "You bastard, you can't make money, but you're the first to do harm." Wang Yukin, who had an indifferent look on her face, quickly jumped up and ran towards Wang Qiaozu, cursing. Although the scolding was uncomfortable, Wang Qiaozu was relieved that his wife could run over to help him immediately. Unfortunately, it seemed that he was relieved a little too early. Wang Yukin was indeed running in his direction. However, his hand reached out to the basin. Ha ha! It turns out that he is not as important as the basin. Wang Qiaozu smiled self-deprecatingly and struggled to stand up, but his hand slipped and he fell back with a plop. The water from the basin came over and mixed with the soil on the cement floor, making his face wet. The clothes also completely chilled his heart. Ah ha ha ha! He slapped the mud beneath him like crazy, his voice sounded like laughter and bitterness, and Wang Yukin kicked him bitterly. "Why are you crying in mourning? Get up quickly." Retribution. Retribution, Wang Qiaozu simply turned over and lay on the ground, looking at Wang Yukin with a sad face. "Be careful, this will happen sooner or later." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Wang Yukin stared at him bitterly. "You want to exercise yourself and want to stand up early. What the hell are you talking about now?" Wang Qiaozu smiled at her. "Wang Yukin, I am serious. Back then, I left Xiaojing alone just to make you happy. Now I have received my retribution. And you were not good to Xiaojing back then. Now you are plotting against her again, sooner or later. One day, you will also get your comeuppance. He has not received good care since he became paralyzed." Wang Qiaozu was almost skinny because he was always locked in the house. His face was pale, and now he was smiling so sadly. Wang Yukin felt terrified from the bottom of her heart and took a step back unconsciously. "Are you afraid?" Wang Qiaozu laughed loudly. "Are you afraid of retribution for yourself or that I will retaliate against you? Don't worry, I can't touch you now. Even if you kill me, I will only suffer. Share. However, if I go underground, I will definitely beg the Lord of Hell to take you away as soon as possible. I will take you to Xiaojing's mother to apologize. Your daughter is a daughter, and my daughter is also a daughter. Over the years, I have treated your daughter like my own child, but how do you treat my daughter? To tell you the truth, if I hadn't seen Xiaojing and Xiaoli living better together than us, I wouldn't have really let go. Why are you so crazy? Wang Yukin hesitated, helped Wang Qiaozu up, and sighed softly, you are really stormy. You have to exercise to stand up earlier, but you just suffered a little. I cursed and swore when I was suffering, but you still drag me to the Lord of Hell. Are you acting like a man? After being married to me for so many years, you should know my character well. Why was it that you could tolerate my bad temper before, but not now? To be honest, if your sister had not married into a wealthy family, and if Xiaojing had not stayed with your sister, would you dare to do this to me? It's true that I brought Xiaolan and Xionan here, but didn't I also give birth to Xiajun? That is your biological son, and he is also my only biological son. You think, with my son here, how can I care about this family? I am good to Xiaolan and Xionan because apart from being my biological daughters, they are also obedient. As for Xiaojing, think about her stubborn temper when she was young. When did she ever listen to my words? Yes, sometimes she is quite capable, but while doing it, I didn't show any shame, and even scolded me in a low voice when I wasn't paying attention. How could I endure it? It's hard to be a stepmother. When I train my own child, no one will say anything even if it means beating her. But if I just say a few words to Xiaojing, you all think I'm not treating her well. You don't even think about it, she can work by then. If I really don't love her, I will definitely not let her go and let her help take care of Xiajun at home while I go to work to earn money and support the family with you. Also, Xiaolan and Xionan started taking on small jobs to earn money to support the family when they were only 15. After all, do you support them, or do they help you support the family? Wang Qiaozu, I have never settled a score with you, but now you have settled a score with me. Since we have to calculate, let's calculate it in detail. You can think about it for yourself. Will it be cheaper for me or you to marry you? You picked up 2 girls for nothing to be filial to you and help you support your family, but you still complain about them. Do you have a conscience? Wang Qiaozu closed his eyes and said nothing. After living with Wang Yukin for so many years, if you don't know what kind of person she is, you will really live like a dog. This woman is really good at everything. For those who don't know, listening to what she said, they might really think that he is a white-eyed wolf, but in fact, if his sister hadn't married into a good family, and if his sister hadn't loved Xiaojing so much, he would have probably been kicked out of this place. Is it home? These days, Wang Yukin was hot and cold, which made him really see through her. At first, when Wang Yukin learned that her sister was married to a good family, she thought she could benefit from it, and she really regarded him as a bodhisattva. However, as Wang Lei declared in front of a large family, she could not use her husband's family's influence to help the Wang family. After getting rich and rejecting all the family's requests, Wang Yukin's attitude towards him took a 120-degree turn. Later, he was kind to him for a period of time because Li Dajin fell in love with Xiaojing. Wang Yukin wanted to use Xiaojing's influence to arrange jobs for his 2 daughters and son. After she made it clear that she would not force Xiaojing, Wang Yukin's attitude cooled down again. Now she suddenly became good-tempered again because her curse frightened her. At the same time, she was also worried that if Xiaojing and her sister changed their attitude towards him, she would not be able to take advantage of him. After living together for 18 years, when did she really put her heart into this family? When the children were young, she went behind his back to buy delicious food for her 2 daughters, but he turned a blind eye. When the children grew up, she went around looking for Xiaolan and Xionan's in-laws, but she never asked her. Pass his idea? When looking for an in-law for her daughter, she not only considers the man's family background, but also his age and character. Why, when it's his daughter's turn, can she only consider whether she can bring benefits to the family? Yes, she was very considerate about their common son, but her intentions did not include him. She just thought that after her son got along well, she could live a good life and make her face shine. He even heard someone tell him that Wang Yukin planned to be buried with her ex-husband 100 years later. In other words, there was never a place for him in all her preparation plans. In the past, he was blindfolded and couldn't see all this. Now, he finally saw clearly that he was already like this, lying on a hard bed wearing mud clothes. He had never been pessimistic before. I know you blame me, but have you ever thought about it? Our family is all about Xiaojun. If he doesn't have a good future, what hope do we have? When he marries a wife in 2 years, where can he find a good girl? Xiaojing is now 24 years old, and it is not a bad idea to marry Li Dajun. Although she is nearly 20 years older than her, men tend to love others when they are older, and treat her as a treasure. With her delicate temperament, is there any way to find someone with a bad temper? With Li Dajun here, their children are destined to have a future. Even if Li Dajun leaves first, Xiaojing can still live a good life. When people get old, they just want to make a living for their children. How can she live a good life? You feel comfortable and can help Xiaojun. Why can't you understand this? My little girl isn't married either. Why don't you marry her to Li Dajun? Wang Qiaozu stared expressionlessly at Wang Yukin, who was taking off his pants for him. Besides, my little girl is 1 year older than Xiaojing. Why don't you let your little girl get married and enjoy her happiness? Wang Yukin glared at him. Isn't it true that Li Dajun doesn't like Xiaonan? If he does, I will definitely let Xiaonan marry him. Okay, I will go to Li Dajun later and ask. If he is willing to marry my little girl, you can let her marry me. This kind of happiness will be given to whoever wants it. You. Wang Yukin loosened his half-sloughed pants and glared at Wang Qiaozu. You, are you trying to make me angry? Why am I angry with you? Wang Qiaozu moved his back and sat on the edge of the bed. Didn't I follow your wishes? You said this is a good marriage and a good marriage to enjoy happiness, then you took the initiative to help make the good marriage fall on your daughter. Why am I angry with you? Uncle, Aunt, are you at home? Along with the greetings, Cao, who was talking to each other, arrived. When he saw Wang Qiaozu, who was wearing a pair of mud pants and lying on the bed, he was shocked and quickly stepped forward to support him. Uncle, what's going on? Aunt, it's not me who said that. Your uncle is not in good shape, so don't make him angry all the time. If Xiaojing knows about it, you'll have to worry again. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 533. Second update arrived. You heard it, Dajun only thinks about Xiaojing. If he really could marry anyone, why would he still be single now? Wang Yukin scolded Wang Qiaozu and smiled at Li Dajun. I know you feel sorry for you. Uncle, I don't know how hard my aunt is. She insists on practicing walking by herself, but he knocks over the washstand, spills the water, and gets himself covered in water, mud, and gets angry at me. Hey, you all see him as an honest man, but you don't know that this honest man will become stubborn and won't change his mind even if he's given a donkey. Aunt, uncle, you are not in good health, why are you worried? Li Dajun smiled and helped Wang Qiaozu take off his pants. Uncle, this is my plan. When Xiaojing and I get married, we will ask her not to go to work. Well, it just so happens that she is studying medicine, so it will be convenient for her to take care of you. With her by your side, I guarantee that you will be able to walk like flying in no time. Dajun, I won't bother you. Wang Qiaozu shrank back in embarrassment. I can do it myself. Uncle, I had a bad attitude yesterday. Are you really angry with me? Li Dajun smiled ingratiatingly. My parents have scolded me and thought I was ignorant, so I will come and apologize to you right away, sir. Please don't be angry with me. Don't worry, I will be filial to you in this life. Wang Qiaozu looked at his wife who was standing aside. Go and boil some water, and I'll have a conversation with Daijin. There is still something in the pot. Wang Yukin didn't want to leave. She was afraid that Wang Qiaozu would trick her again. If you are asked to burn it, then burn it. I have something to say to the army. You still can't let me listen. Okay, let you listen. Wang Qiaozu looked at Li Daijin. What I said to your aunt just now. I think you should listen to it, and I won't be sloppy with you. Your marriage to Xiaojing. I'm afraid it won't work, and you know it. That child was raised by her aunt. I can't help her, and of course I can't make the decision for her about her marriage. Your aunt likes you and wants you to be the son-in-law of the Wang family. It's not that you don't know your daughter, so my uncle would like to ask you a pleasant question. If your daughter is willing to marry you, will you marry her? Uncle. Li Daijin frowned. You think I am a beggar? Do you want a bite? What I like is Wang Jing, not Wang Nan. If I like Wang Nan, there is no need to wait until today. Carry. If you are dissatisfied with me, or if my aunt and Xiaojing are dissatisfied with me, I can change it. Of course, if it is an issue of age, I can't help it. However, I will always be kind to her. If you marry someone of a similar age, it is impossible to treat her like a treasure, and it is impossible to let her stay at home and not go to work. My parents and I have agreed that as long as she is willing to get married, she will not have to take care of the family's work in the future. If you wish, you can live with us and we will take care of you until you grow old. Anyway, as long as I can do it, I will definitely satisfy her, and what I can promise to my uncle, as I said before, is that everyone in this family can come to me for their work until they are satisfied with the answer. I know all this, but what I said again is that I can't be her master, and she really doesn't like you, so don't make things difficult for me. Wang Qiaozu sighed heavily. My son is ours, and my daughter is ours. They're also dear. I can't hook up with my daughter just for the sake of my son. Well, you can leave this family alone for the sake of your daughter. Wang Yukin snorted coldly and looked at Li Daijin. Now do you know if I bullied him just now? I tried to persuade him with good intentions to let Xiaojing live a good life, but he felt that I was pushing Xiaojing into the fire pit, and even the old sesame seeds and rotten millet from more than 10 years ago were released. Daijin, Auntie likes you not because of the power in your hands, but because of you as a person. Unfortunately, Auntie's daughter cannot fall in your eyes. Auntie feels really uncomfortable. And, I will marry Wang Nan. Wang Yukin came back to her senses after a while. Didn't you say that you didn't like Wang Nan? Otherwise, you wouldn't have waited until now. Why did you agree to marry her? It turned out that I didn't think so, but when my aunt said this just now, I felt that I was really not content with guarding my baby. My little girl has a good personality and looks good. I didn't think much about her before, and I always regarded her as my sister. Don't dare to think too much. Now after thinking about it, I feel that my little girl is more suitable. As long as I marry my little girl home, you can enjoy the blessings. We will raise you and let Xiaojun work hard and find a good wife. When the time comes, if he is willing to take you over, he can take you over. If not, you will always live with us. You also know that my parents are very honest, and since I have not married a wife in these years, they are extremely anxious. If they really marry my daughter back, they will definitely treat her as a treasure. You will definitely not be wronged if you are with them. They will think that you saved their son and will only treat you as a great benefactor. Auntie, I will go back and prepare now and let my parents decide the date. No. We organized the happy event just a few years ago. Wait a minute. Wang Yukin felt that she was out of her wits. Just now she said angrily that she only liked Wang Jing, but in the blink of an eye she liked her daughter. This, if she had known this earlier, she would have stopped answering randomly. How could she be willing to let her daughter marry a man nearly 20 years older? However, if she goes back on her words now, her son's job will not be solved, she will not be able to marry a good wife, and she will not be able to provide for her properly in the future. Also, when she saw that her sister-in-law was being fawned over everywhere she went, she almost went crazy with envy. Unfortunately, she didn't have a good relationship with her sister-in-law before, and now her efforts were in vain. So, she could only think of other ways. And Lee Daejin should be one of the shortcuts, just the second daughter. Auntie, what other instructions do you have? Lee Daejin looked at her with a smile. It's okay if you regret it, I won't get married if I leave the Wang family's daughter. Since both my uncle and aunt look down on me, I will marry you. If I, Lee Daejin, cannot marry someone younger and more beautiful than your daughter, I will do the opposite. No, no, Wang Yukin quickly shook her head. I'm just wondering if I can wait until Wang Nan comes back and discuss it. I'm completely satisfied with you, but Xionan has never thought about this. She thought you were her brother-in-law, but now you suddenly become your husband. I don't know if she can get over the difficulties in her heart. You also know that she has been growing up at home since she was a child, and Xiaojing grew up with her aunt. Xiaolan and Xionan felt that their sisters had robbed Xiaojing's home, and they felt ashamed. If they robbed Xiaojing again, her son-in-law, outsiders said something unpleasant, and she couldn't feel better, don't you think? Okay, I will give my aunt one day. If she is willing, I will marry her. If she is not willing, I will find someone. Anyway, I must get married before the year. Otherwise, I, Lee Daejin, will not be able to marry her. Get that guy. Okay, Daejin, I'm so sorry, it's all because of my incompetence. Wang Yukin sent Lee Daejin away with a shy face, and Wang Yukin returned home. She glanced at Wang Qiaozu, who was struggling to push on his pants, and she snorted coldly, I understand, your heart is set on your daughter, and it is impossible for us to get along with each other. Let's go get the divorce certificate tomorrow. Okay, Wang Qiaozu responded happily. Living together in this situation would only be torture for him. Even if he lived alone, it would be better than the exhaustion he was doing now. But it was said that Lee Daejin left the Wang family and did not go home directly. Instead, he went to an off-road vehicle parked in the distance. When he got close, he nodded and smiled at the people who were talking by the car, and then turned his eyes to Zhou Mikang's face said, I have done everything you asked me to do. Zhou Mikang looked at him expressionlessly, don't report to me, let them do this. He was referring to Chu Xia and Wang Zheng. Originally, he and Chu Xia were going home, but while they were stopping there to chat, they saw Wang Jing and Wang Jun and Wang Nan having fun. At that time, the two of them did not go up. When Wang Jun and Wang Nan left, while Wang Jing was squatting on the ground crying, Chu Xia went over and called her to the car. When she asked, it turned out that it was Wang Jun and Wang Nan who threatened her. If she didn't marry Lee Daejin, they would send Wang Qiaozu to the hospital for her to take care of her in old age. Also, they would not be responsible for any problems with her safety in the future. Although Wang Jing has not had much contact with the Wang family in recent years, she is quite familiar with their tempers. Wang Jun is very messy. Although he is only 17 years old, he has dropped out of school since he was 14 and followed a bunch of older kids. He looks similar to a boy in his 20s, but in fact, his strength and ruthlessness are really no less than those of a boy in his 20s. Since he said that, he might really do it. She is not afraid of anything else, but if the girl's innocence is gone, she really can't live. Besides, Wang Jun also threatened her that if she didn't agree, he would start with the people around her started to stop everyone from interacting with her. Who is the person next to her? Of course it's early summer. Thinking of what Chu Xia had said before, the way Wang Jun looked at her was scary. Zhou Mikang knew that this person definitely needed to be taught a lesson, otherwise he might really do something disgusting. Although there are protective personnel around Chuxia, they can nip the danger in the cradle, so they must not let it grow up. Several people discussed it and decided to use Li Dajin as a breakthrough point. Originally, if Wang Yukin had not proposed to let Li Dajin marry Wang Nan, Li Dajin would have pushed for it. Unexpectedly, the other party was so cooperative. It just happened to save Li Dajin's trouble. Of course, he doesn't really want to marry Wang Nan. What he wants to do is to anger Wang Nan and Wang Jun and make them do irrational things. After that, of course, he will be handed over to the police uncle. It was Zhou Mixang who came up with the idea, but his approach was not kind enough. However, the other party was not kind enough, and he dared to take advantage of his little wife. If he was kind, would he still be a man?